under the new chief Rajiv Chandrasekharan. For the Congress party, it becomes a very, very important test, as well as the Congress eyes to wrest back its traditional seat, which is Nilambur. The Congress had won this before 2016 and 21. Now the Congress is hoping that it can make a dent here again. Let's go now to Kaliganj in West Bengal. Test for the TMC government ahead of the 2026 elections in the state. Also, remember, this is coming at the back of the Murshidabad violence and the termination of 25,000 teachers by the Supreme Court. So it is going to be a very important election for the TMC. For the BJP, it's crucial. After losing the bypolls, 6 bypolls last year, can the BJP make a dent here in West Bengal as well? With that, we are slipping into a short break, completely out of time on Nationwide at 6. I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you so much for being with us.
Is your business future ready? Join the 13-week strategic ESG certification program for business sustainability and growth for CXO and business leaders by NDTV, Terry and Zenora. Master global ESG frameworks, gain real-world tools, and lead with impact. Starts July 13th. Enroll now and power your business with sustainability.
Do you really know the company you invest in? What is the real picture behind presentations and claims? Is the outlook as rosy as the company claims? Know Your Company, powered by NDTV Profit Research, shines a light on the biggest stock market movers.
From the echo of the Trump tariffs to the geopolitical tensions in West Asia, and on the sidelines, a possible thaw in the frosty relations between India and Canada. I will bring you all the latest updates from the Kananaskis G7 Summit. NDTV, live from the G7 Summit in Canada.
How often have you turned away from debates that descend into endless fights? We bring you a show where every question is answered, where every debate finds its resolution, where every story finds its conclusion, where opinions collide but facts prevail, where stories unfold with insights and trust. When the noise ends, the last word begins.
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you, it matters. Hello and welcome to The Southern View. I'm Veera Raghav. Lots lined up on the show this evening, but first, the big headlines we're tracking this hour. Big NDTV exclusive, Sashi Tarur speaks out on his differences with the Congress and also on India's diplomatic position, says he wished the party well for the Kerala bypoll and that he will speak to the party leadership in private. The Karnataka cabinet decides to increase reservation in the state housing schemes for minorities to 15% from the existing 10%. BJP claims the Congress is up to minority appeasement in the state. The black box of the ill-fated flight AI-171 may have to be sent to the US to continue the data extraction as it's been damaged. The crash, heart-wrenching moments as his friends and family bid a final goodbye to co-pilot Clive Kundra. Well, first up this evening, Karnataka's IT Minister and Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge's son, Priyank Kharge, has alleged that he is being selectively targeted by the centre which allegedly denied clearances for his visit to the United States. Reported first here on the Southern View on Tuesday, Kharge has alleged that he was denied clearance to lead a delegation from the state to the US to attend the Boston Bio 2025, an international conclave on biotechnology, and another event at San Francisco. He says his delegation was denied permission on the 4th of June, but as soon as his name was removed from the list, the delegation was cleared. Several ministers from Karnataka, including Priyank, have made several trips abroad, and Priyank's insinuation is that he is being politically targeted. No response yet from the MEA. Kharge Jr. spoke to my colleague Deepak Bubanda in Bengaluru. Listen it.
Well, we here at NDTV had, of course, put out this information that Minister Priyank Kharge was denied clearance to visit the United States as a part of the state delegation. He's come back from Paris. He's joining us today here. So if you could tell us what exactly happened. Take us through the sequence of events. When were you supposed to visit the United States? What was on the agenda and why was the clearance denied?
See, I'm not sure on why the clearances were denied. Generally, when a delegation is denied clearances, they give us valid reasons. Right now, there are no valid reasons denied. Now, the problem here is that when a delegation that is being led by me does not get clearances, but when the same delegation, minus me, only the official officers delegation with the same agenda, same objective is given, gets approved, and a cabinet rank colleague of mine, we send it separately, it gets approved for the same this thing. So I think the MEA has the answering to do, not me. And if the MEA gives valid explanation saying that, look, these are against the interests of the country or investment policy of the country, and this is something that you should not be indulging in, means we are okay with that. Or if they say that this is not the right way to send the proposal, resend it with these things, we are okay with that also. We could have done that also. But not giving us any reason and just stamping a denied thing, I mean, I don't know, it's like as if you are deporting somebody.
What kind of a bearing will this have, sir, do you think, in terms of investments coming into the state of Karnataka?
See, if the Prime Minister of India is very serious of MAGA plus MEGA equals mega, he needs to ensure that there is an equal playing field for everybody. I don't know, and if ministers are not seen at the right places with the right people, how do you expect us to convince them to invest in India? And we are not saying, and whatever investments come to Karnataka always has a cascading effect.
What's the politics behind this all? Joining me this evening, Samrudh Hegde of the Congress Party and Mohan Vishwa of the BJP. Mohan Vishwa, the allegations are serious. The state's IT minister in a state which has enormous amount of investments from foreign countries says that he has been selectively targeted by the center and denied permission, putting him in an embarrassing situation from traveling to the United States. How do you respond?
See, Raghav, good evening. See, first of all, Mr. Priyanka Kharge should understand that he's known for politicizing everything. From past 2 years, if you see his statements, whatever may be the cause, whatever may be the incident, he starts politicizing it. He starts targeting Prime Minister or the BJP at the center. Come on, the same Priyanka Kharge have traveled a lot in the past for the same country and for different countries. Why he was not, apprised to the MEA then? Come on. And also, the MEA's permission, whatever, without any proper reason, even even I know, even every citizen of this country know, they will not reject it. There will be a valid reason. See, they do undergo certain tests like what is that event, who is the organizer of that event, where it is happening, whether when the government exchequer's money is being spent, whether this particular person is required in that event or not. See, those kind of things will be checked. If you see the Priyanka Kharge's press conference itself, what he says, along with himself, the officers and the consultants appointed, their visa has been accepted, whereas his has been rejected. See, if at all, if the properly qualified people, the visa has been accepted, means there should be some reason for rejecting Priyanka Kharge, without which, they would not reject it.
Okay.
And also, let me tell you, he spoke about the Karnataka's vested interest. Let me remind him, when there was an event happening at Davos, all the chief ministers of all the states, including NDA, UPA, even the opposition party at the center, have attended the Davos event. Only state which was not attended is Karnataka. So come on, he has not even
Samrudh
attended the Congress event,
Hegde,
and what
respond to
kind of
this insinuation
moral
that
responsibility he
Priyank
has?
Karge is politicizing an issue, probably without categorical clarity on why the permissions were denied, if they were denied at all in the first place.
So, Veera, Mr. Kharge was leading an official delegation of Karnataka to Europe and the USA to showcase the Karnataka model of development, to attract investment, and to engage in global dialogue. Now, much to the disappointment of the BJP, this delegation had received remarkable reception across Europe, and they were looking to continue it in the USA. Now, out of the blue, the MEA suddenly decides to reject his clearance for the US. Now, the entire onus to give a reason is entirely on the MEA, it's on the central government, it's on the BJP. And since they have not given us a valid reason for rejection, and since the action is entirely arbitrary, this clearly shows that the BJP is vindictive, it is highly insecure, and it is willing to jeopardize Karnataka's interest to prioritize petty politics. Let us not forget, Veera, Karnataka leads the country in IT. We have the fourth largest technology cluster in the world. And we have the Silicon Valley in the form of Bangalore. And you're denying the IT minister clearance? What kind of petty politics is this? This is the heights of insecurity. They should have valid reasons to deny.
Mohan
Raghav,
Vishwa,
shall I respond?
30 seconds
Yeah.
to respond.
See, I see. My friend needs to answer one thing. He said Karnataka leads in IT. You know, Karnataka IT means Infosys. The same Infosys founder Mohan Das Pai has said that from past 2 years, corruption is at its peak in this government. Come on, what answer he has? At the same time, he spoke about investments in Karnataka. Let him remind that
Please give
the
us a
Toyota,
reason,
which was
sir.
there
Give
in
us the
Karnataka
reason.
from
Let us
past 3
focus on the
decades.
issue at
No,
hand,
hold on.
please.
Hold on. See, let me tell you, from past 3 decades, Toyota had a plant in Karnataka. Now they shifted the electric car plant facility to Maharashtra. And also Infosys have shifted the new facility to Hyderabad. Come on,
No,
this is the kind of investment
30
which is
seconds,
happening in the
please
state.
respond to the question that's been raised. Please
See,
respond to the question that's been raised. Why is there no categorical clarity on why he was denied permissions?
See, the output of Priyanka Karge's receipt, if you see from past 2 years, is zero. Nothing has been capitalized. Wherever he has went and has spoken there, has held the meeting, he has come on. Let him name even a single investment which has come from past 2 years to Karnataka. Any new investment, any new company, let him name. Like, I have these basic questions. See, as I told you earlier, MEA, I'm telling you, when we were also in power, our speaker, Mr. Vishweshwar Hegde Kageri, he was from BJP. Come on. His visa was also denied when we were in power. And Modi ji was also there in the center.
Samrudh
Did we
Hegde,
say that, we did a
Samrudh
petty
Hegde,
politics?
without knowing the reasons, you're politicizing the issue. 30 seconds, quick response from you.
Veera, this is the way of the BJP. Deflect. Never answer the question. The reason is supposed to be provided by whom? The reason is supposed to be provided by the MEA. When are they supposed to provide the reason? When they reject the application, they're supposed to provide the reason. Otherwise, it gives scope to show that it's an arbitrary action.
We don't have the documents on hand, but I will leave this conversation right here. We're waiting for a clarity from the MEA as well. Priyank Karge has spoken out. Thanks to the two of you for joining me here. Now to the big NDTV exclusive this evening. Congress's Thiruvananthapuram MP Sashi Tarur, who has publicly conceded to differences with the party leadership, speaks out on issues from diplomacy to domestic politics. He was speaking exclusively to Maria Shakil. Listen in.
Political observers say that you and your party are drifting apart. You also spoke about difference of opinion today. How will you define the relationship with the Congress today? Your relationship with the Congress party today?
Listen, I'm very much somebody who has stayed in the Congress party and loyal to it for the last 16 years. Many of my own colleagues and party workers know that the very close bonds we have. In fact, the question came up in the context of a Malayalam question about the by-election taking place in the part of the place called Nilambur in Kerala. And I said that I wish the Congress candidate well. I wish him all success. He is a friend of mine. In fact, I think that as far as I'm concerned, there is no doubt that the hard work of the Congress workers deserves the reward of victory. And that as far as I'm concerned, the fact that the Congress, as an institution, the Congress's values and the role of its workers, these are all things I hold very close to my heart. That if there are any differences of opinion, it has only been with some elements of the leadership. I don't want to go on beyond that because this is hardly the time to be discussing such matters. I said if there are any differences, they can be discussed behind closed doors between the people concerned. And that's precisely where I wish to leave it. I have absolutely no desire to discuss internal politics at this time, and particularly in the context of the questions that you've been asking.
All right,
Thanks
Dr.
very much,
Sashi
Murray.
Tarur, thank you so much
All the best
for your time here on NDTV.
Watch that big NDTV exclusive with Maria later in the evening. But now back to Bengaluru. In the aftermath of the stampede that took the lives of 11 young people, the Karnataka government has brought a draft Karnataka crowd control bill. The draft bill placed before the cabinet today proposes to impose strict penalties, including imprisonment for organizers who flout rules. It doesn't include religious events, though. My colleague Deepak Bupanna joins me now. Deepak, what's the key learning from the tragic stampede that reflects in this draft bill?
Well, multiple states have had different SOPs or rules in place to manage different sorts of events, be it political or even private events. Probably this is one of the first times that we are seeing an act itself that is being planned, a draft copy now being prepared. This was something that found a mention in the cabinet as well. Important provisions here. Firstly, of course, this act is saying that if you violate the rules that I have mentioned in this act or the provisions here, you're liable for imprisonment, which may extend up to 3 years. There's also a fine here ranging from 5,000 to 5 lakh. There'll, of course, be some changes that will be made based on various recommendations from various departments. But here, it also lists out in particular offences of event managers. If they do not take permission, if they do not approach the police, if they do not manage, crowds. So various other situations, there's going to be, of course, action that could be initiated against event managers. So finally, this bill, of course, will give clarity as to who can be held accountable, because that was one of the biggest question marks that kept coming up after the stampede in Bengaluru as to who should the blame be pinned on. And even in the High Court, we saw a lot of blame game that's going on. The government blaming the KSEA or the Royal Challengers Bengaluru, or even going on to say that the event managers' DNA were at fault. But here, through this act, of course, there are rules that are mentioned and there are provisions that are mentioned, which makes it very clear as to who needs to do what, and if it's violated, what is the action that they will face.
Well, now to the face-off between the two Telugu-speaking states over the massive Pollavaram-Banakacherla river link project proposed by Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister Chandrababu Naidu. Telangana Chief Minister Revanth Reddy and Irrigation Minister Uttam Kumar Reddy today met with the Union Water Resources Minister to raise their objections to the project. Revanth Reddy has been on the offensive against the project, which proposes to divert excess waters in the Godavari River to the Krishna Basin and dry regions of Rayalaseema. While Naidu has been pushing for the project using his leverage as a key NDA ally, Revanth Reddy has been on the offensive, building political optics on the issue.
So the Andhra Pradesh government is pushing aggressively to get this project implemented. The Pollavaram-Banakacherla project is meant to transfer 200 TMC of water from the Godavari River through the Krishna to Penna for the Krishna Basin, and is meant to mainly irrigate the drought-prone Rayalaseema region, about 7.5 lakh acres, as well as provide drinking water to about 80 lakh people in that area. It is supposed to cost about 82,000 crore rupees, and what was worrying Telangana is that the Andhra Pradesh government under Chandrababu Naidu is aggressively pushing with deadlines, trying to get the approvals from the centre as well. And what they are saying is that they will be utilizing the excess waters from the Godavari itself, and they even formed a special purpose vehicle for implementing this particular project. Telangana on its part has said that this is detrimental to the interests of Telangana, and they believe that the waters that have been allocated to the Telangana state by the Godavari River Disputes Tribunal, as well as multiple agencies that talk about allocation of waters, they believe that that will be affected because of this project. Second, they also believe that there will be flooding that will be caused because of the waters being brought here, because there is supposed to be a Bollapalli reservoir and a Banakacherla reservoir as well. And Uttam Kumar Reddy, Irrigation Minister of Telangana, has expressed apprehension that even Bhadrachalam could would get affected. What the Chief Minister of Telangana has said is that if Andhra Pradesh does believe that there is excess waters in the Godavari, then why don't they remove all the objections that they have raised for projects that are being implemented or have been proposed on the Godavari and the Krishna, and allow the allocated waters to be utilized by Telangana, so that the excess waters or the surplus waters then can be utilized by Andhra Pradesh. So they have now appealed to the centre, and the Chief Minister has also said that just because Chandrababu Naidu has Prime Minister Modi's ear, he should not expect, or he should not presume that he will get all the clearances, and that Telangana is going to fight this legally, politically, as well as in the People's Court.
Crucial project for Andhra Pradesh, especially for those dry regions. But moving on now, Kamal Haasan's Thug Life may have won a legal battle for a Karnataka release at the Apex Court, but it may not have a show at all in the state. The distributor for the film in Karnataka, which has bombed at the box office in other markets, has reportedly sought a refund from the producers and doesn't want to release it in the state. The Karnataka government has categorically assured the Apex Court that it will give the film protection if the producers decide to release it in the state. And political leaders even sent a message to Kannada activists that they have to abide by the rule of law. However, there was huge question mark over whether theatres would risk releasing a film, especially after its poor performance elsewhere. It's a symbolic win, though, for the makers of Thug Life and Kamal Haasan, that their right to release the film has been asserted by the Apex Court, and they didn't have to cow down to mob rule, which even questioned, remember, the Apex Court questioned the Karnataka High Court, seeking an apology from the star. So is this just a symbolic win? Joining me now, noted film critic Lata Srinivasan from Chennai. Lata, I spoke with some of those in the Kannada film industry, and they say protests are not their big worry right now, given that the government has given protection guarantees. The film's poor performance at the box office and other market, they feel, makes it not great business to release it here now.
Absolutely, Raghav, because what has happened is the movie released globally except Karnataka and across India, and the movie has not done well at all. Even in Tamil Nadu, it failed to live up to expectations. And given that the distributors in Karnataka have paid around 10 crores for the distribution rights in Karnataka, I think now it's the question of 2 weeks too late. It's already released, it's already flopped at the box office. What is the point of releasing it? Who is going to come and watch the film? In a few weeks, it'll be on Netflix. And also, there are newer films which are releasing right now.
Right. So it makes that business point important there. But Lata, you know, just as an offside on this, we've spoken about the controversy all along, but Mani Ratnam, Kamal Haasan, many of us, big fans. But what's perhaps the lesson from Thug Life? That you can't ever recreate a Nayakan, and when the two teamed up together, the sense was that people were expecting another Nayakan.
Yeah, absolutely. Because Nayakan, which came out 30 years ago, was a cult classic. I mean, that can never be replicated is what eventually everyone has found out today. See, today's age, the audience has evolved so much. They're exposed to world cinema, to cinema across India, thanks to OTT platforms. And also the social media, which didn't exist before, is now plays a very critical role, especially where movies are concerned. So I think there's so much that has changed in the world today. Trying to recreate something which was a classic and a super hit 30 years ago is not a great idea, and it should have been something different or left untouched, is what many fans believe, that, you know, there is only one Nayakan, and many of Kamal Haasan's films, in fact, are classics of the sort that should not, you know, be ever touched or remade again.
Well, perhaps the lesson is don't touch a Godfather. You've seen it, enjoyed it, leave it where it is. It's the Godfather of all movies. But just making you put on the analyst cap again a little bit, Lata, from Kamal Haasan's point of view, it would be a symbolic win that his right to release the film in Karnataka has been asserted by the Apex Court, because there were many question marks raised over the Karnataka High Court's, seeking an apology from the star.
Yes, absolutely. Because Kamal always said, you know, I will stand by the rule of law. I have freedom of speech, right to express myself. And he's always believed in that. If you see him over the decades that he has been in the film industry, or even as a personality, he's always stood up for what he felt was right and said whatever he wanted to, because he believed in freedom of speech. And what the Supreme Court has done is upheld that and said he has the right to an opinion, and if somebody has a different opinion, they have the right to voice it, but they cannot ban his film, because that is the business of cinema, and that is completely different. So I think, yes, for him it's an absolute victory.
Right. So perhaps one could put it that the politician Kamal Hassan and the activist Kamal Hassan has won his rights, but the filmmaker Kamal Hassan has lost his audience in Bengaluru and had to face financial losses. Thanks very much, Lata Srinivasan. You've been following this very closely, this entire controversy over Thug Life and Kamal Hassan. That's all we have time for on the Southern View this evening. News and updates continue right here on NDTV. You can catch the Southern View on YouTube as well.
गोल्ड प्लस ऑप्टिमिस्टिक रिफ्लेक्टिव ग्लास लगाओ, धूप की गर्मी को दूर भगाओ और बिजली का बिल भी बचाओ।
The markets move fast.
And so should your portfolio. Expert insights, real-time stock picks.
Do I buy Ola?
Should I hold CDSL for the long term?
Buy, sell or hold.
The answers you need, straight from the experts.
Callers from India and across the world. Connect live, ask, decide and invest wisely.
Your portfolio, your future. Ask Profit.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news, is here.
The last 1 month, if you see, the share prices of Genzol Engineering has fallen more than 58%.
Why are the rating firms calling the debt payments as default?
We have two credible credit rating agencies on March 4th coming and downgrading the stock to D.
Statements are consistently being proven wrong, and transactions are being taken place which are different from what they were originally pictured to be.
The company claimed it would roll out 6,400 electric vehicles. But what it has rolled out is a shocking scam. Funds meant for the project were funneled allegedly back to the promoters, the Junkie brothers. What did the money buy? Not EVs, of course, but a lavish flat in Gurgaon's luxurious DLF Carmelias.
News is not just headlines, it is what impacts you. And news should never be mistaken for noise. What matters is the reality. Accurate, in-depth, and with the right perspective. For over 20 years, I have been a journalist, and never has clarity mattered more than now. At Newsnight, we go beyond the surface. We dissect the details, challenge the narratives, and bring you the unparalleled clarity you deserve in a world clouded by misinformation. We are bold, we are direct. Newsnight, for the news in your interest. Only on NDTV 24/7.
Why was there a hurry? Was it the government that was in a hurry?
I don't want to blame anyone.
Joining us today here in the NDTV newsroom.
Government cannot walk away from this responsibility.
Cricket is region of sort in this country.
Would you like to comment on what happened?
What is the condition of the injured at this point? How many people died?
What exactly happened? You have lost your daughter.
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you. It matters to India. It matters to India. It matters to India. And it matters to me. And it matters to me.
India Matters with Shivaru. Only on NDTV 24/7.
Hello everybody, you're watching NDTV. A new wave of missiles from Iran has struck multiple sites across Israel, damaging a hospital, and Israel has attacked Iran's heavy water nuclear reactor as the two countries trade fire for the 7th consecutive day. There's no sign of a de-escalation, but will a protracted Iran-Israel conflict impact India, its economy and its position geopolitically? Let me get you the big areas. Number one, rising crude prices. Does that pose a risk of imported inflation? Well, what we know so far is that Brent crude prices have surged with fears that it could spike even more if the Strait of Hormuz, which is a globally important strategic choke point, Iran has been threatening to seal it. If it is blocked, will India be impacted? That's a big question. India is the world's third largest consumer of crude oil, and it depends on imports to meet over 85% of its requirements. Nearly 45% of crude oil imported by Indian refiners in May was likely to have been transported via the Strait of Hormuz that we're talking about. So can oil companies face higher input cost? Will refiners have to look at alternate suppliers? That remain some concerns. Now, the rupee has weakened. We know that due to higher oil bills and global uncertainties. How is that going to play out is another big question. Now, stock markets have largely held steady so far in India, but energy, logistics and airline stocks are under pressure. So will RBI have to delay rate cuts to control inflation? Will that impact growth momentum? That is something that we have to look at later. Now, experts say that the impact of this protracted conflict between Iran and Israel as of now could be peripheral, but number two concern is disruptions amongst key shipping routes that are driving up freight rates. The Middle East, remember, remains a major trade partner for India. Instability in this part of the world could adversely affect trade. Shipping and insurance costs have already jumped for vessels that are passing near this conflict zone, and potential closure of this Strait of Hormuz could also disrupt oil, LNG and goods trade to and from West Asia. So what will India need? India will need safer routes for its energy supplies, and some experts have also said that import-dependent sectors in India like chemicals, metals, fertilizers might feel the pinch. Number three concern, will further escalation dampen global growth with a knock-on effect on India trade flows? Well, let's look at specific examples. We've been talking about how Iran is a key buyer of Indian basmati rice. Exports are expected to fall sharply due to shipping risks and payment delays. With rising tensions, Indian exporters are facing delayed payments, higher shipping costs and declining demands. As a result, basmati prices in India are expected to drop. Can farmers and exporters be hit? That remains a concern as well. Number four is also the fact that signs of a global arms race are emerging, and those are raising concerns that developing countries might divert resources towards large-scale acquisitions. Strategically, India faces a double bind here, keeping ties with both Israel and Iran intact while being watchful of how regional instability might strengthen China or Pakistan's hand in the Gulf. The longer this conflict simmers, it's clear that there could be some hits that could be harder to manage. But the good news is that India is currently cushioned by good forex reserves, strong macro indicators, and smart oil sourcing. But if the conflict deepens, the risks might rise fast, from pump prices to export earnings and even market sentiment. I spoke to India's Minister for Petroleum and Natural Gas, Hardeep Puri, today on the impact of this conflict on fuel prices, and this is what he said.
Thank you, Mr. Puri. Always a pleasure to have you with us. So in terms of energy needs of India, I look have diversified our energy sources in the last few years, but how prepared are we when it comes to pricing, when it comes to our energy requirements, specifically with this conflict?
Vasudha ji, I think you have succeeded in rolling many aspects, many dimensions of this issue into your question. How prepared are we? What will be the impact? We brought in prices and several others. First of all, let me start with the part which is more obvious. For a country which is dependent over 85% or 85% on the crude oil imports for its requirement, yes, the situation as it unfolds globally will impact us without doubt. A country which depends 50% on imports for our natural gas requirements equally will be impacted. But having said that, let me say two things. One is there is more oil available on the global market than at any point in recent history. Production, new product producers are coming on the market. I'm not referring just to Guyana, where it still has to come on stream, but a big find has been made. More suppliers in the Western Hemisphere. The United States is the largest producer, 13 million barrels they produce per day. They are going to add another 1.5 million barrels. Canada, Brazil, etc. So there's more oil coming on the market. Even if there were not to be the case, please recall that OPEC Plus and others had cut back production. It used to be 102 million barrels a day. They cut back 5 million barrels in order to limit the supplies available so that prices could be shored up. We have diversified our sources. On a typical day, we consume 5.5 million barrels of crude for refining, or a little more than that. What comes through the Straits of Hormuz is only about 1.5 million. So at one level, I can answer your question and say, if that I don't get that 1.5 million coming from there, I will increase my domestic production, don't export, and because I'm also not an insignificant exporter, I will buy more from other sources. There's one country from which we used to buy 800,000 barrels or 1 million barrels a day. We cut down to 500,000 because more oil is available and we are able to diversify. So there's no problem on the availability side. Okay. On the price-wise, look, the Prime Minister has already demonstrated that if a government is conscious of the needs of its consumers, on 3 occasions he brought the price central excise down. I'm talking about November 2021, May 2022 and March 24. Central government reduced its excise and BJP states also reduced their VAT. I think as a result of the central government's action, the price came down by 13 rupees and 16 rupees respectively for petrol and diesel.
Right.
Okay, now, if tensions escalate, will the route be closed, the Straits of Hormuz? Frankly, people agonize about that. But as far as I'm aware, in the last 50 years of our history, of the history of this region, Straits of Hormuz has never been closed.
But sir, do you see that as a possibility? And also, if that happens, what will be the impact on the freight expense?
Causes of some concern. First of all, why would the Straits of Hormuz be closed? Because somebody would want to see it closed. I don't see it in the interest of either China or Iran. China, why? It's a very big consumer of the energy which comes through those straits. And Iran, because it produces some of the energy which doesn't go elsewhere, it goes there. So it would not be in their interest to close it. Would it be in the interest of the others? Yeah. Well, I think since President Trump came into office, he has been talking about drill, baby, drill. Yes. he is keen to bring the price of energy down. And drill baby drill is intended not only to ensure that enough energy is available in the markets, but price is reasonable and inflation comes down. So I'm not convinced that the United States would want that either.
In layman terms, is there anything that the common Indian needs to worry about when it comes to fuel prices? Do you see that going up in some times?
The common Indian, I don't know who the common Indian is, all of us, should be very conscious of the fact that this is a prime minister who, if at all he brings prices down, he doesn't take them up. I mean, on 3 occasions, as I said, November 21, May 22, and March 24, he brought the central excise duty down. Even, and there, by the way, we are continuing to feed 80 crore people 3 meals of dry ration in a day, even though the pandemic is over. So I don't think that should be a matter of concern to a common Indian. But, you know, in a warlike situation, and today you can use that term without any fear of contradiction, it's a very serious escalation of the military conflict. I hope wiser counsels prevail. And as the Prime Minister has been calling, others have been calling for cessation of hostilities in return. But our discussion is anchored if that doesn't happen. 3 points I want to make for you. We have enough stocks. Yes. We have enough diversified supplies. Even if there were to be disruption in supply lines, we can source it from alternate sources. We have enough. Our 5.5 million barrels a day, which goes into our refineries for petroleum and petroleum product, I don't think that is something we are unduly worried about.
Okay, that's very nicely said. Mr. Puri, also, we saw the Congress party attack you yesterday because you were talking about India's, stance and positioning. How do you see that attack on you, the personal attack on you, and specifically with regard to Trump-Munir's meeting and the Congress calling it a triple jhatka?
See, I'm not going to get into issues of meetings and people's luncheon. That's not my portfolio. I would also not respond to the Congress party, but since you said it's an attack on me, all I can say is I was mildly humored. I was mildly humored because I wear this kind of a criticism as a badge of honor. I mean, somebody turns around and say, I was a failed diplomat. Well, you know, your government appointed me as a permanent representative to New York. The rest is history. We won our Security Council seats. I think out of 189 countries voting, we got 186, which is a record of sorts. And I don't want to get into that because that gentleman who spoke, he also went on to say that I'm a failed minister. That I found even more endearing because my record speaks for itself, whether they're, but I don't need his certificate. All I can turn around and say is that when the Congress party resorts to having its spokesperson, self-styled or appointed, attacking a minister and attacking me, I think something I must have said has really stung them. And has stung them badly because instead of... he also added that I'm parroting the PMO line. I found that particularly endearing. And I want to thank him for it through your channel. Because if as a minister I can correctly echo the government's policies, particularly those announced by the Prime Minister, then I think I must be doing something right.
Well, India's petroleum minister there saying that India is prepared for the crisis that the world might face with a protracted Iran-Israel war. Economist Madan Sabnawis joins us now. Mr. Sabnawis, thank you so much for your time on NDTV. What are the various sectors in India, sir, that need to be watchful? How do you see the overall impact of Iran-Israel war on India, its economy, and specific sectors?
The war between Israel and Iran, the way I look at it is that it's more of a localized war. When I say localized war, it is in the sense that Iran today has been banned from any international relations in terms of trade with the rest of the world. What this really means is that while it does produce a significant proportion of crude oil, it is not free to sell it in the world. Of course, it does to China, but that is a different set of an issue, and it's not really a large amount. So this said, I think what we are seeing in terms of how India could be affected, it's going to be more of a kind of a peripheral nature. When I say peripheral nature, it's more a case of saying that if the crude oil price goes up any further and remains in a higher trajectory for a longer period of time, then of course there would be macroeconomic implications. But what we have seen is that if you go back to the Ukraine war, you go back to the Hamas war, which took place. In case of Ukraine, we saw maybe around 3 months before things reverted to the normal. In case of Hamas, Israel, there was actually no impact in terms of crude oil price. And today, if you're looking at Iran, which though is a producer of a significant amount of oil, but it doesn't really contribute significantly to global supply. So there's no physical demand-supply mismatch coming on account of this war. So what we see is going to be more a psychological factor of crude oil price moving up. And that is something which could have implications for India.
Right. Mr. Sabnavis, I was looking at how the currency markets have not reacted, and the stock market has remained largely indifferent so far in India. So what are the potential best and worst case scenarios that you can talk about here in the context of this war? And how likely, is an escalation going to impact Indian economy? And what are the larger, macroeconomic changes that you're talking about, which might be due to this war?
Yeah, so if you look at it, see if crude oil price goes up, automatically our import bill goes up. If our import bill goes up, the trade balance goes up. The trade balance goes up, there is definitely pressure on the currency. So what we have seen is that there's been some minimal impact on the currency. The rupee has tended to depreciate a little bit. But if you see how India has done vis-a-vis the other currencies, it's not really done any different. Because we have a positive factor in terms of the dollar being weaker in the market, which means that other currencies tend to strengthen. So I think there's been a kind of a balancing act between what's happening to the USD and what's happening on account of the trade front. But when crude oil price goes up, I think the impact will be on the WPI inflation, not really on the CPI. Now, why do I say this? Because when you're talking of WPI inflation, we have a weight of around 7.5% for the oil basket. And the moment crude oil is imported at a higher price, now we may not be paying the Brent price, we may be paying something lower because we are importing around 1/3 of our oil from Russia, which we typically get at a discount. But still, there would definitely be some kind of a pressure in terms of the WPI inflation number. Now, this could be affecting our producers, means manufacturers who use oil products will see that their costs are going up. So there will be some kind of a pressure as far as that's concerned. Maybe if your aviation turbine fuel price goes up, airfares could rise after a timeline. But if you're looking at the CPI, we have one very fortuitous development which has taken place in the last few years, which is that the government has kept the retail prices unchanged in both the cycles. Now, what are these cycles I'm talking of? When the crude oil price comes down, the benefit is not really passed on to the consumer. The government and the OMCs are the ones who are sort of redistributing these gains. But when the price goes up, we don't pay a higher price, and it's being absorbed from these buffers which are being built by the government and OMCs. So therefore, the CPI inflation number per se may not really change significantly, which means from the point of view of monetary policy, I don't think they need to look at any option when we are talking in terms of crude oil price moving up. The third impact will, of course, be on the budget. So this is just the last thing. So if we're talking about the budget, today we don't really have much of a petrol subsidy. Whatever is being given is more for LPG. It's around 13,000 crores, which is not much. So that's not something which is really going to affect us. So the fiscal remains largely unchanged. There could be some impact on the WPI, not much on the CPI. Trade deficit going up, which means currency could remain a bit fidgety for a short period of time. But I don't see any major significant impact on the Indian economy as of now.
Okay, Mr. Sabnavis, also with the Middle East situation expected to remain volatile for some time now, and this has been happening for over 2 years, what policy measures should India adopt to minimize the impact on its economy? We see that the freight costs are rising, crude oil prices, like you mentioned, have also spiked. We are also talking about importing inflation due to Israel-Iran conflict. Is there something that the government can do here?
Okay. Now, if you're looking at crude oil, see, actually only the crude oil price has gone up in the market. If you're talking of other commodity prices, they have not really been affected by what's happening in the current situation. So what this means is that my imported inflation is going to be more on account of crude oil prices going up and how this is being transmitted through the system. As I mentioned earlier, the CPI inflation is something which would not be affected much because of petrol and diesel prices, which we as individuals are paying at a petrol station, will remain unchanged. It's not something that's going to get affected. But however, if you're talking of the wholesale prices, there could be some kind of a marginal impact. So can the government do anything? Probably not at this particular point of time, because prices are free. We are importing at whatever the international prices. I mean, the policy of the government will be probably to negotiate more with countries like Russia to get prices at more favorable terms. So that's what could probably be done. That's something which the government will be having at the back of the mind.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Sabnavis, for joining us on NDTV. Mr. Sabnavis there on the way forward. Now, a crucial aspect to all of this is also geopolitics. As tensions rise in West India, how will India build and improve its strategic diplomatic positioning, especially in Gulf diplomacy, port access and energy security? That is what we talk about next. We have with us former diplomat DP Srivastav. Thank you, Mr. Srivastav, for joining us on NDTV. My first question to you, sir, diplomatically, how do you see India handling something like this? Because we see that Iran is getting destabilized, but we have some very strategic projects like Chabahar and, of course, the IMEC corridor that's also coming up. Do you think that all of this could be sidelined by rivals like China and Pakistan? How do you see India maneuvering the situation?
It's not a question of China and Pakistan outmaneuvering India. It's a question much more fundamental, which is it's an existential question for Iran. If Iran survives and it remains stable, then Chabahar and INSTC can go forward. If there's a war and instability, no such project can go forward. But the immediate thing is not Bahar on INSTC, it is oil. And let me just add, the geopolitics of oil, that 20% of world oil supplies passes through Hormuz Strait. So far, Iranians and Saudi Arabia's understanding has held peace. It is unlikely that Iran will initiate hostilities in this region because it will also affect it, and it will also affect its relationship with the Middle East countries. But the fact remains that if it is pushed to a corner, situation may change. And there has been an attack on South Pars 14, an Iranian offshore gas field by Israel 3 days back. So let's hope that the situation calms down. But in case there's a wider conflagration, all bets are off.
Right. Ambassador Srivastav, also India is known to have good relations with Israel and, of course, with Iran. How do you see that playing out diplomatically? What kind of position does India have with respect to its own bilateral ties with these two countries now, sir?
We have countries, and this, in order to maintain the equilibrium, bring the tensions down, this is not something which India alone can do. This requires, first of all, some agreement between the parties, and certainly there should be no attempt to reflect by, third parties joining in. And that is the biggest danger.
And how do you see this? What are the longer implications of this protracted war, or if this conflict just goes on for some more time? How do you see this playing out? What are the larger ramifications for India? How can India prepare itself better for something that is to play out? Because we've also seen US-Israel alignment. Of course, Iran leaning closer to China and Russia. How is India going to maintain its autonomy without being cornered diplomatically? Do you see such challenges there?
40% of India's oil supplies come from the Gulf. Oil is a fungible commodity, so in case of a conflagration, it will not simply be the supplies coming from this particular region, but there will be a price shock which will also cover oil coming from other sources. Now, $1 increase in the price of oil adds something like 12 to 14,000 crores to India's annual import bill. So this is a huge amount. But the situation is not limited only to the economics. We have a small number, a fairly small number of, about 1,500 Indians in Iran. But on the other side of the Gulf, there are 7.1 million strong Indian diaspora. If there's a with the entry of US, we don't know which way President Trump will do. A major flare-up, and the consequences could be unforeseen. It may be recalled that you go back to 92 Gulf War or 2002 Gulf War. The military outcome was decided very quickly. That is not in doubt.
Right.
But the political instability continued. And it continues in that region. So it's easy to force a military outcome. It's very difficult to stabilize the region, what follows next. And as we have seen, eventually, America was forced to withdraw from Iraq. And in fact, most of the Iraqi oil fields have now gone to China. So the consequences of war are entirely unforeseen, and it cannot be seen from the prism of short-term military gains by one side.
Right. Thank you so much, Ambassador Srivastav, for those insights. Military outcomes are, of course, easily quantifiable, but like Ambassador Srivastav points out, that sometimes the uncertainty that follows is of course very difficult to gauge. The Israel-Iran conflict is something that we talked about, and it is far from creating economic tremors in India, but of course people have to be watchful. The country has to be watchful. There are potential fears of rising oil prices, something that has already begun, and a weakening rupee to export hurdles and diplomatic balancing act. Indian markets have remained stable for now, but tensions could expose cracks, especially in fuel costs and also some exports and West Asia linked trade. Strategically, India has to keep up ties with both Israel and Iran, and also keep its trade ties with the Middle East thriving. With that, it's time for a short break. More news on the other side.
Is your business future ready? Join the 13-week strategic ESG certification program for business sustainability and growth for CXO and business leaders by NDTV, Terry and Zenora. Master global ESG frameworks, gain real-world tools, and lead with impact. Starts July 13th. Enroll now and power your business with sustainability.
Do you really know the company you invest in? What is the real picture behind presentations and claims? Is the outlook as rosy as the company claims? Know Your Company, powered by NDTV Profit Research, shines a light on the biggest stock market movers.
From the echo of the Trump tariffs to the geopolitical tensions in West Asia, and on the sidelines, a possible thaw in the frosty relations between India and Canada. I will bring you all the latest updates from the Kananaskis G7 Summit. NDTV, live from the G7 Summit in Canada.
How often have you turned away from debates that descend into endless fights? We bring you a show where every question is answered, where every debate finds its resolution, where every story finds its conclusion. where opinions collide but facts prevail, where stories unfold with insights and trust. When the noise ends, the last word begins.
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you, it matters to India. It matters to India. And it matters to me. And it matters to me.
India Matters with Shivaru. Only on NDTV 24/7.
I've been reporting on all issues big and small from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of Maximum City is infectious. I'm bringing that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti, also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
India's IT capital is always bustling, a city full of startups, stories and surprises. And I keep you ahead on all the Bengaluru buzz.
The markets move fast.
And so should your portfolio. Expert insights, real-time stock picks.
Do I buy Ola?
Should I hold CDSL for the long term?
Buy, sell or hold.
The answers you need, straight from the experts.
Callers from India and across the world. Connect live, ask, decide and invest wisely.
Your portfolio, your future. Ask Profit.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent.
Good evening and a very warm welcome to India Matters on Thursday night. The big story that we continue to track today is a week after the AI 171 crash in Ahmedabad. We are still searching for answers, and that's why on tonight's show we lead with a piece of breaking news. The AI 171 crash probe is our big story tonight. Sources have told NDTV that the AI 171 black box that has been recovered from that 787 aircraft has sustained some level of damage. Now, remember, no decision has been taken yet on sending it abroad. This despite certain media reports suggesting that to be the case. The probe body, the Accident Investigation Board, will be deciding on the location for the analysis of the black box. There were media reports which said that it was possible that it will be sent abroad because it cannot be analyzed here in India owing to that damage. But the Civil Aviation Ministry has issued a statement today saying that all conditions of the black box are currently being tested for technology, for security, for safety, and only after that will a decision finally be taken. But what we know for sure is that the black box of this particular